Hello everyone. Welcome back to Streaming Alchemy. I'm John Mahoney, and on today's show, we're going to be taking a look at a way to set up a smart merge to handle transitions that typically would have a lot of overlay on them, where if you were merging layers, it could basically distort things. So before we get to that though, what I'd like to do is I'd like to invite everyone to, if you have any questions, have any feedback, please just post them in the comments below and we'll get to them here live on air. Also, if you would like to join us for a one-on-one here on the set, you can also call in. We have our call-in number here, and it's also posted in the show notes, so you should be able to get to us pretty quickly, and somebody will get you on air with us. All right, so let me talk a little bit more about what we want to do today with a smart merge transition. Merge transitions are really great. They allow you to create dynamics on the actual framing of the video that you're sending out on a production. So if I just jump over here to what you see on the screen, that's what we have here on the screen. If I wanted to take and have two guests talking and then add another element to that and have those guests reposition, this would be a perfect use case for the merge. So if I come here and I have these two guests here and I want to change this over so it becomes a 3-box, when I press the merge, you can see everything on the screen just does a quick move. And that can also work if I'm doing things with pulling out individual guests or multiple guests. So in this case, you can see the guests that were in the 2-box zoom in and become part of a 4-box, and then I can push those out again. So very, very cool way to add a dynamic visual without any special fancy effects. This is something that's sort of very baseline. Just take elements that exist in one and manipulate them into the shape they are in another input. So we've used this before, but one of the things that you will notice, let me switch this around a little bit here. So actually, let's start up here. If when I do the merge here, you can see that this guest, it's very clean. It just zooms right over the first guest, and you get a very nice, clean transition. However, if I'm using the first guest here, and I do that same merge, you'll see now that there's this whole frame and the other guest fading out on top of them. So it just is a little bit jarring, and especially if you have a lot more going on the screen so let me sort of flip this around and do it this way. You can see now when this comes out, there are a lot more elements and it covers a lot more of the image that you're doing this merge with. So what we wanted to do was find a way, without requiring a whole lot of pre-planning, to make sure that whoever you are merging in a multi-box shot, it'll actually still be a clean transition. And probably the best way to think of why in one case it worked and the other cases it didn't is because when you are doing merges, what you're effectively doing is using the layering that exists in a MultiView inside of vMix, and you are just manipulating things on those individual layers. So when I had the 2-box, so let me sort of jump back to that so we can cut that over and put this here. When I did this merge with the 2-box, the second layer was on top, so it was a very smooth transition. But if I went back and selected this guest, they were on the bottom. So doing this merge now, it just had to fade off everything that was above them on top. So what we're going to do to overcome this is we're going to dynamically rearrange layers based on who's in preview and the layer that that preview could be on in program. And this means that we have to give up one layer in our multi-view. So for the multi-view, we're taking layer 10, the topmost layer in a multi-view, and we'll just say, we'll never use that. And from there, anytime we go to do a merge, we'll have a different button that will set up that will run with a script. And this script will effectively look for the guest that's in preview, find them in the layer in program, make the adjustment to that layer to move it to the top, to layer 10, and then it'll go and execute the merge and clean everything up after we've done that. So what you can see here, we'll just show it in action. If we go and look at what we have here with the clean merge, the scripted merge, you'll now see that you don't have that same overlay. When I press the button here, it's jumping this guest to the top layer and then doing the merge so they expand full screen. So it can be much cleaner, and that's especially visible when you have, much larger numbers here. So with this, and I'm doing this, now you can see he's just cleanly over the top, and that will work for all of these guests. Whereas if I did that same jump with the old merge, the traditional standard merge, you can see everything sort of fading off across the top of it. So, as I said, the one limitation though is you have to be willing to give up layer 10. So let's actually jump in to the code here and we'll start to take a look. So over here, I'll put this on this screen and we'll come in this way. So this is a very, actually before I get into this, let me just welcome everybody. So we have Rudy. Rudy, thank you for coming and joining us. I always appreciate that. James, thank you. Great to have you here again. So we have Brulafu. I am probably doing a terrible job saying the name, but thank you for joining us from Scotland. So I definitely appreciate that. So James said if we could slow down the transition on the merge so we can see it better. Okay, James, what I'll probably do is I'll play around with this as we go into the post-show and we can look at it in more detail there and try to see exactly what you're looking for. And we have M12 Pop, and John Simon. Okay, so both of you, thank you, M12 Pop, thank you, John Simon, for joining us. Great to see you. Okay, so let's dive into the script here. We have pretty much our standard run of initialization. So we are setting up all the variables, and in this case, we're going to find the variables. We need to know what's in preview and what's in program. So we have all of that. So that will give us the input numbers, the keys, everything we could use. We have another one called found layer, which basically is if there's an input in preview, and I need to find if that is a layer in program to handle the merge. That's what we're going to stick in found layer. Then we have layer counts, which is how we know which layers are, which preview and program, which ones have layers associated with them. And then all the XML components so we can start to tear apart and work with it. So the real processing starts as usual by, we have the vMix XML piece that we always load up to start. And we're digging into this now to find out a few things. So the first is in the XML, we look for vMix active. So that is the input that's associated with program out. They call it active in vMix for some reason, but it's in a traditional framework that would always be called your program out. And so from getting that program out number, we go and get all the XML associated with the input that's in program. And then we get the key value for that. So that tells us the specific input that we have to work with. And we do the same now identically for preview. So now we know exactly what's in both of them and what their structures. We have the XML for each of those inputs. So what we're doing as a quick check is we get the XML node list. And if you remember when we've talked about node lists, what they are is a list of XML blocks of a certain type. And what this lets us do is it lets us determine if those inputs have different layers. Because what we're creating this node list out of is the selected nodes overlay. And if you look at the vMix XML, overlays are what a MultiView is. So when you set up a MultiView, it has the input, and then it has the 10 overlays on top of that. And so that's how they call their MultiView layers are called overlays in the XML. And so we can basically say, give me all of the an XML tree of all the overlays in program and all the overlays in preview. And that's exactly what we have in this section of code here. And we are now just also, we're coming back and saying, what's the count of all those layers? And if it's 0 or there's nothing there isn't a count, then we know that it's just an input and it's not layers. So that gives us a better sense of what do I have to manipulate. If it's just inputs, then I don't have anything to worry about, and I'll just do the traditional merge. Otherwise, I need to start doing stuff. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to come in and say, if the total number of layers in program is less than or equal to 0, which means there are no layers in program, but there are layers in preview, so they are greater than 0, then what I'm doing is I'm basically coming and saying, this is almost like a reverse merge. I'm taking a single input and I'm making it part of a broader number of inputs in a layered structure, because that's what's in preview. So when I do the merge, that's how we're going to do the ordering. So all we're doing now is, now that I know that, I'm checking and saying and this is a very contorted thing you have to do in Visual Basic, but the only way I can find if there are any layers here, because it will come back if I do this count up here and say, give me everything for .count. If there is nothing there, if there are no layers, it doesn't come back and give me 0. It'll come back and give me a construct called nothing. So the only way I can ask for that is to say, if not found layer mode is nothing. So this reverse thing to basically say, if there's something there, then I want to do this code. And so very, very simple set of steps we're going to do. We're going to go and basically go through this XML to say, find any one of the layers here that match the layer that's, in this case, in program, because we're doing it the other way around. And so that's all I'm doing. I'm getting the index of the layer that actually matches the found layer. And I am using API calls to move that up to layer 10, and that's the move MultiView overlay. And when you do a move MultiView overlay, it doesn't just move the input to that layer, it moves all of the other attributes. So one of the things you see in scripting is that you can't really adjust the attributes inside of a layer. There's no calls to say, here's the cropping, here's the sizing. So you have no sort of scriptable functionality that will let you control that. But you can copy it all from one layer to another with this. And this will let you shuffle the layers around with all of their settings intact. So when I move that to layer 10, we actually have to do a little bit of a sleep. We do a 200 millisecond sleep to just let that transition happen. Because these things it's not like traditional coding. It's with scripting, you don't have that same sort of step synchronization. So this gives the system a little bit of time to perform the move. Then we actually do the merge function. And that takes longer because the merge itself is scripted to just be a 1 second transition. And so we sleep for another second, 100 milliseconds after that, which lets the transition happen. And then we just move that layer back to where it came from. So we're doing the move multi-view overlay, same for the input that's in preview, but now we're moving it from layer 10 to the layer we found it in originally. So that's all we're doing in this block of code. So very, very straightforward functionality. But what that is doing now is it's getting that layer that's going to be the focus of the merge on top. So whatever happens with that, visually, it's covering everything else below it. And then when it's done, we just move it back to where it was, and all is good. Nothing has changed in the vMix session. So you have no worries that you've shuffled things around, which could impact things later. It'll work exactly as it did before. And this is the case where if there was nothing there, if there was no layer in the programmer preview, then it's just going to do the merge. So we'll do the standard merge. So that's what this whole else clause is. But all of this logic here is basically a duplicate of what we're going to do if it's the other way around. If I have a single input in preview and a multi-layer inside of program, doing the exact same functionality in reverse. I'm just saying, if this input is in one of these layers, find that layer, move it to the top, do the merge, and then move it back to where you found it. And that is exactly what we're doing here with the script. So really very, very simple scripting for all of this. And for everything that we've been looking at here, this is really something that is very, very powerful and very generic, because it gives you those clean transitions you're looking for, but you don't have to set everything up with specific inputs ahead of time. We have this just set up as a button that launches the script, and when we do this, you end up with no types of issues, no matter how I set any of this up. So if I jump back here and let's just do this merge here, I can swap this around, and it doesn't really matter who I have in place there. Switch somebody else, same sort of thing. So nothing has to be set up, and I could have I have multiple frameworks here. So this would work. Now there's no overlap, so this just works as a normal merge, which kind of looks like a fade. But if I do something where, let me sort of swip this back, and I do another multi-box here, this will, again, it will just sort of work as a regular merge would work. But if I take any of these people and just throw them in, this stuff all just works. And you don't have to, when you're thinking about this, set anything up special in advance. You just have the script, and it just does a better merge for you. So that really covers everything. I know this was, a fairly short show up front, but before we wrap this up, I just want to again welcome everybody else. So we have Pocket Video School from Mark from Newcastle. So Mark, thank you very much for joining us. We also have AXA Films. So hello, thank you very much for joining. And we have Frank Mankey from Rome. Frank, I hope I pronounced your last name correctly, but thank you for joining us. This is great. So hopefully this all makes sense. You could make things more complicated. You could do it so it works with multiple layers. So if you're doing things where you wanted to do, move, if there were two elements, move them both to the top. All of that stuff will work. Oh, so we have, gosh, thank you all for joining in. So I have Shrikant, hopefully I said your name. Thank you for joining us from India. And we have Dennis, thank you, from Rhode Island. Always great. Love love the Northeast up here. So this is great. We have ad hoc. Ad hoc, thank you very much. Hopefully you're finding these things useful. But for everybody that is joining, if there are specific things you'd love us to cover here, or want to learn more about, please just send us comments, send us emails. So you can send it to john@streamingalchemy.tv, and I will get it from you. So ad hoc is asking, where can I find the scriptings here? So we actually have a GitHub repository that's online. It's listed inside of the Streaming Alchemy group in Facebook. So that would be something that we can certainly publish to you in a reply to the comment, or if you make a comment after the show, because the show comments go away on us after the live stream. So if you make a comment after the show, we'll be able to reply to you and get you all that information if you need it. So why don't we wrap this up? We'll have a post show. So I welcome any questions then. It doesn't have to be about what we covered here. It can be about any topic related to streaming, video production, and if there's stuff I can answer, I'd be happy to answer. And again, we'll be taking callers. So if you'd like to join us live on air, we'd love to have you. So if I don't see you in the post show, we will see you next Friday. Thank you all for joining. Otherwise, we'll be here in a few seconds and kick off the post show. So thanks, everyone. Hello, welcome to the post show. So this is this was fun putting together. We are actually expecting to have an interview the show, and for a variety of reasons, we weren't able to coordinate the time, and so we had this show sort of scheduled for later this month. So we brought this in, but we thought it was just a cool topic because it's the sort of thing where you start to see the differences in refinement for the types of productions you do. And I think that's something for a lot of us when you're trying to project your image, sort of sell your brand. Those little things, even though if you looked at it, it wouldn't seem like a lot, those little things can make a difference. And so this was something that we definitely wanted to cover here and see if we could sort of help out and add a little extra polish to some of the things you may be doing. And we know for a lot of people, this is something that is actually a big part of a lot of their productions. They're going from multi-boxes with remote guest or guest and slides, and they're bringing one or the other full screen. And this gives you that smoother look when you do that. So now I know that we had an ask to see if we could change the speed that we're doing the merge at. So let me see if I can change this up here. And we'll try to do something. Let's say if we can do this at 4 seconds here. So let me see if did that take. Okay, so we'll give this a shot here. So we've set this up as 4 seconds, and we'll do the merge. So it doesn't necessarily seem to be slowing this down for the merge. So yeah, this is not sure if this is going to get you where you want to get in terms of visuals here, but hopefully the what you have set up here. Let me see if we do this. Yeah, okay. Oh, good. I was pressing the wrong merge here. So what you can see as you look at this move is the layers on top are fading out on top of this. But if I take the top person, which is basically the equivalent of what we're doing, and I set them over here and then, oh, sorry, messed this up a bit here. So we'll put this here, cut that over, and then we'll do the top person here. And when I do this, because this is on top, you can see that what it's doing is covering up everything that we have there. So this is that's the actual difference, is that the way this thing operates always guarantees that whoever is doing the expanding merge will cover up everything else below it. So let's see, we have a few questions here. So Shrikant said he's new to scripting, but been watching for a time. So what's the correct way to import scripts into vMix? So there is no one correct way, but I'll make a couple of suggestions here. The first is that don't edit in vMix because it's a terrible editing environment. What we use here is, see if I got this here. Let me just, so we use Visual Studio Code, which is a free editor from Microsoft. And this will work with Visual Basic and do everything you need to do. But what it does in addition is it gives you a much easier look because it's color coding things based on the structures that you start to type. And so as you edit a script here, what we typically do is we will, let me sort of see if I can swap these both. So we'll go in, we'll do select everything, and then Control C. So that's Control A, Control C. And then when we go into vMix, you'll go over into the settings and scripting. And then to add this, you can just go in and paste the script in. So it's a very simple way to move back and forth. The other thing that you get that's really nice when you use Visual Studio is that if there is an error in here, vMix will give you a line number and come back and say, you have an error here. We'll also highlight it, but it gives you that line number. So it makes it very easy if you sort of jump back in here because all the lines are numbered. And so you have no problem just taking an error message and going there and making changes. And we usually do this either on a single screen. So we have sort of a widescreen monitor that we use for this. And so what we'll do is we'll pin them to each to 1/2. So I work in the Visual Studio, paste into vMix, run things, test it. And if there's something, I go back in and keep working in Visual Studio. So that's probably the better way to handle this if we are if we're doing sort of any sort of complex script. The other thing is never edit in vMix. Edit here, even if you're making changes. So like that little fix or anything else you want to do it over here and move it in. Because otherwise you lose, this is really your master copy because you can save these. You can put these in a source control system. You can do all the things you would want to do with maintaining code. And unlike vMix where it's sort of buried in with that session, this gives you that freestanding copy that you can archive and make sure you have. And what you don't want to do is be making changes in the one because you thought, oh, that's a quick change. I just spelt the name wrong. The name's still spelt wrong over here in the Visual Studio version. You'll save that, you'll bring it in, and things don't work, and you're trying to figure out why. Or you've made a change and you think it's good. You come back, you make another change, copy that over, and you lose the first change. So there's lots of things. So part of the process is not just copying them in, is also building a discipline around how you manage the code as you're developing it, and then after you're done with the production, bringing that, keeping that in a way that you can leverage it in the future. So, are there any other questions or anything else you'd like to see us jump into here? So, James has something. What are you doing to take the script? Okay, that's a good point. I didn't actually cover that. So let me jump back into to vMix here. So when you set the script up, you have a name up here that you give to the script. So in this case, this is just called Smart Merge. And there is, if you go into the shortcuts in vMix, we'll edit it right here. So I have this shortcut tied to a vMix, to a Stream Deck. So that's my key press. And there is a function under scripting called script start. And so this will let me take, and based on the name, in this case Smart Merge, start up any script we want. And there are multiple scripting related functions. So there's start script and stop script. There is a stop all, which means if you have multiple scripts that are running, you can stop all of them, and that's without having to give individual names. But where the start script is, it's great for these types of things, but where stop script would be useful is if you have a script that's just running in the background all the time, and at some point you want to turn that script off. This will let you start it up so it runs and does something, and then when you're finished having it sort of watch your session, you just tell it to stop. The other is something called script dynamic. And what script dynamic lets you do is, I'll just set this up here, you can actually start to write code in here. So you could do API.function and do a whole set of function calls for vMix. And you can put them all into one single batch of code here. And that lets you do sort of small scriptlet types of things. I want to take and I want to move this to preview, and then I want to do a transition, and then I want to move the next thing to preview. So I'm scheduled. That's perfect use case for this, where you don't really need a full script, but you want to do 3 or 4 commands in a sequence. And you can also do things like sleep in there. So it will give you the ability to space the timing on things. So very useful for that. But that's for working with these scripts, that's how they are all invoked. So it's very, very, very useful for doing these types of single button pushes that you want with a lot of complexity behind them. That's exactly how we do it here. And the start script dynamic, this is a case where, I mentioned it, we just do the merge function. So in this case, we had that. So I have another button here that does the traditional merge, and that's what you see, API function, quote merge. And that's how we do the scripting functions. So let's see. So we have Der Luffy from Germany. Hopefully I am saying that correctly. So thank you for joining us. Great to have you here. So let's see. That probably covers everything that we did here, and hopefully the concepts here are generic enough that you can start to think of different ways to apply it. So even though we did this with merge, this is a general template for I want to find what's in one input, like my preview, and find what's in program, and then based on what I see, take a series of actions. And especially for finding something in a layer. So if I have an input and I want to find what's in that layer, this could be something which we haven't done, but I could look at different layers and based on that, just pop layers out dynamically. So you could go and say, I want to pop what's in layer 1 out. And you could find what's in layer 1 and then go and put that in preview and do the merge dynamically. So there are things here that we didn't cover, but if you start to think about different shortcuts you may want to use, that could be very, very useful. So, Paolo from Italy, thank you for joining us, Paolo. This is great. I am really humbled by the number of people from the number of different countries that are taking the time out of, for what a lot of you are, Friday evenings to come and join us. So everybody here that works on the show is really grateful for that. So thank you. Uh, so we say, I was AFK for, oh, okay. When I'm not in Facebook, where can I find your scripts? Well, first, there's a couple of things here. First, we just have this on. It's not in Facebook itself. It's in GitHub, and we'll post the link. It is in it's the link is in our user group on Facebook, but we'll also post the link in YouTube as well as one of the comments, so you can have that. The other thing is, we're putting these out for everybody to use. So this is not something where we're holding these as proprietary. Copy them, use them. What we'd really love is that if you take these and do something great with them and you'd like to share, please just reach out to us and we can, share them in either, if you have a direct link, or we could put them up and with attribution for what you guys have done. So please, this is not something we are holding close to ourselves as sort of our proprietary stuff. Take it, use it, change it, share it. I mean, this is, basically how we'd love to have everybody, everybody that's joining us to feel comfortable with doing. It's really open source for the community here. So please have at it and enjoy. So. All right, then. I guess we've probably covered everything for today. So thank you all for hanging out with us after the show. And we will see you all for our show next week. Same time, same social channels. Take care, everyone. Bye.